I think there's been some positive news actually as of late when it comes to Hedera. In case you haven't watched my previous videos, it's Lee the Captain here, and I first want to clarify nothing I say is financial advice, and I'm not telling anyone to do anything. But again, I think there's been some pretty awesome news because did you know that Hedera ETF records first inflows since mid-April? I think it's pretty fantastic actually because of course we saw Canary's HBAR ETF for quite a while. Everyone said, well, that's kind of lame. They said that it didn't really do much to HBAR in terms of the price. But you know what? Around a 3% recovery in the past 24 hours, not the best, but I wouldn't say it's the worst either. But besides that point, according to BSC News, basically, it does say that on May 6th, the industry's only spot Hedera ETF saw net inflows of around 2.5 million in terms of the dollar amount. In which case, it says how Canary's HBAR product has not seen any inflow or outflow activity since as far back as April 21st. So yeah, I mean, it's been a, I guess, season of not such a good time when it comes to altcoins, and naturally we saw the effects of that when it comes to HBAR. But now again, seeing the first inflows since mid-April when it comes to the Hedera ETF, basically, I just found that to be pretty impressive considering just how much HBAR has had a quote-unquote drought, right? Considering kind of the dry season that it's had as of late. Not to mention, it does say that the product, right? So basically Canary's HBAR ETF, it already holds around 1.45%, so 1.45% basically, of HBAR's market cap. Not bad, because we do know that historically, the Bitcoin ETFs, the Ethereum ETFs and all that, it does tend to give them a little bit more stability. Now, granted, it's still not considered the most stable by a lot of people's standards, but at the same time, it's considered a little bit more stable when compared to a lot of other projects out there that we have within this space. So sometimes these ETFs, they do give more stability, right? And in a sense, we kind of saw that to a certain extent when it comes to HBAR, but at the end of the day, HBAR, it's an altcoin. It's never going to have the stability of like a Bitcoin, for instance. And also on top of that, because it's not such a extremely massive altcoin either, it just doesn't have the stability of like an Ethereum, for instance. But at the end of the day, right, if a ETF like Canary's ETF, when it comes to HBAR, if that could help a little bit, I don't see why it's such a bad thing. And we're already beginning to kind of see some of the effects, right? Sure, HBAR, it's still slightly below 10 cents, but at the end of the day, if, through the ETF, around 1.45% of HBAR's market cap is held through that, it's pretty impressive. I think it does give a good starting point maybe for HBAR moving forward. But not to mention as well, we recently saw HederaCon, right? Or should I say the Hedera conference, some people like to call it. In which case, it was this event in Miami, and I think it gave, a little bit more exposure when it comes to Hedera, gave it more notoriety. And also on top of that, it does kind of highlight, I think, Hedera's fundamentals, because we do know that Hedera Hashgraph, it doesn't use traditional blockchain technology. It uses something called a directed acyclic graph, which is, just a little bit different than a lot of the other competitors out there, because a lot of other competitors out there, they use traditional blockchain technology, whereas we just don't see that when it comes to Hedera Hashgraph. And I think Hedera Con, right, or should I say Hedera Conference, I think that was a good moment, I think, for Hedera because, again, it's putting itself out there. It's kind of giving more exposure. Now, granted, though, we already see Hedera do advertising through like Karate Combat, for instance, and also the partnership that they had with McLaren Racing, and also not too long ago, McLaren actually joining Hedera's council. So, yeah, I mean, it's just pretty impressive to me seeing what Hedera has done so far with the conference, even though it's already done, right? It's already concluded. But at the same time, seeing Hedera, make those moves in terms of partnerships and even caring about advertising, it's 2 thumbs up for me. Now, granted, people like to say, but you know what? HBAR is still low. True. But at the same time, with the recovery in the past month being almost 4%, again, I get why a lot of people say it's doing really bad, but This not doing the best, I think, as of right now, when it comes to me, is not a situation where I would mind in a sense, or in a traditional sense, because yes, seeing things go down is not a good thing, in my opinion, but also at the same time, I am looking to dollar cost average, right? In which case, if we take a look at HBAR back in January of 2025, it was around 34 cents. So we're over three times lower than that. If HBAR goes back to that, I'm already going to Sizzler, the restaurant, of course. However, if we want to take a look at things a little bit more recent, let's take a look at July of 2025. Again, at that time, HBAR was around 27 cents. We're, I guess, over two times lower than that. Well, since we're around 9 cents, we're actually around three times lower than that. Again, if HBAR goes from right here, right now, back to that moment, I'm already going to Sizzler as well. So when it comes to HBAR, do I really need an altcoin season at this point? Not necessarily, just because HBAR's had that massive of a pullback, in a sense where if it goes back to, like, let's say July of 2025 around 27 cents, or maybe January of 2025 at around 34 cents, either, situation, I don't even need an altcoin season anymore. I mean, it'd be awesome, of course. Like, I'm not gonna say no to an altcoin season, but if I don't see one, I'm perfectly fine. I'm perfectly happy, anyways, if HBAR could just go back to around either 27 cents to all the way up to 34 cents approximately. Just because HBAR's had that much of a pullback. Granted, though, had HBAR stabilized at a little bit of a higher point, like let's say HBAR was roaming at around 20 cents or something like that, okay, maybe it goes back to around 27 cents, 34 cents. Okay, yeah, that's very boring. At that point, why would I even care about this? I'd probably just, care about Bitcoin, right? Even though I'm not telling anyone to do anything, but that's what I would have personally done if I was only looking for like those slight movements, I suppose. But yeah, because I'm not looking for that, seeing this when it comes to HBAR, if it goes back to around 27 cents or 34 cents or whatever, I just feel like it's a little bit more dynamic than some of the bigger projects out there. Because if I take a look at it, if Bitcoin were to recover, so to speak, back to its all time high, it's not even like two times lower than that. So I don't know. I feel like it might be a little bit boring for me personally, even though I'm not telling anyone to do anything. But when it comes to HBAR, if it has that recovery, I wouldn't find it that boring. But also at the same time, I'm not looking for a micro cap either. So, I just like more so of that middle ground approach where a project isn't so massive, but it's not like some random micro cap I've never heard of. That's just kind of the balance that I like. But people like to tell me, oh, wow, when it comes to Hedera, like, why would anyone even care about this? Like, there's so many other projects out there that use traditional blockchain technology. Like, why does this even matter? Well, if we take a look at just the idea of like a directed acyclic graph, one of the known benefits a lot of people would like to arguably say is the low energy consumption, right? If we kind of know that AI arguably uses a lot of energy, in some cases, some people would like to say, and then we take a look at this space and we see something like a directed acyclic graph, wouldn't Hedera inherently be a pretty awesome place for AI projects just due to, again, its kind of relatively speaking low energy consumption? That's the thing, right? Again, if a lot of developers out there, when it comes to AI, care about energy consumption, Hedera typically, in terms of the energy consumption, it's often praised. So yeah, I think it would be pretty cool to see that. It doesn't mean it will, but if I did see better adoption when it comes to AI in regard to Hedera, wouldn't surprise me. Keep in mind, Hedera's council, right, includes Google, includes McLaren, includes Mondelez. And Mondelez, one of their brands is Oreo, by the way. The other one is Cliff, like, the Cliff bar. So, yeah, I mean, when it comes to Hedera, as of right now, I'm still waiting, but that's all I can do. I can't, do anything when it comes to the charts. I can't affect it in any sort of way. What am I going to do? Pull up a price chart and draw some random triangles? That's going to do nothing for me. And also, it's not going to do anything when it comes to the market, right? What's the market going to do? Care about what I do on a price chart? No, it's not going to care about that. What I'd rather focus on is the updates, kind of what's going on when it comes to Hedera, the fundamentals. That's what I'd rather care about, not some random price charts and me drawing some random triangles, which clearly does nothing, in my opinion, for me. And also, the market It doesn't care about that. So yeah, I'd rather not focus on that. I'd rather just focus on the fundamentals, the news, and the update when it comes to this project, and also other projects too, because I never only hold one project ever. I like to, focus on other projects as well. But that's just kind of my whole philosophy, right? Kind of my ethos, I would say. But yeah, I'll be sure to make more updates moving forward. So hopefully y'all stay tuned for that. I want to say thank you for watching. I greatly appreciate it. And hopefully I'll see you all in the next one. It's been Lee the Captain. I'm out. Peace. Bye.